you're going to live your life without a home, without a job, and you're going to grow old and decrepit and die. Except you won't die, because nobody dies anymore. And you're going to spend the rest of eternity wandering the face of the earth in that pathetic state, just wishing you could lay down and rest like people did in the good old days. But you can't, not anymore.
To Boys Bible Study, the podcast where we merely open our mouths, let the Word of God fill our hearts, and He tells us what to say, and we haven't been wrong once this whole time, so I think we're doing okay. I'm Ash. I'm here with
Scott.
With us today, our special guest to study intently the film Shatter Dead from 1994 is our friend Nick Vance of the Cinematic Void podcast. Welcome, Nick.
Hey, what's up, guys? How are you?
Hey, good. How are you doing?
We're good.
Doing very well, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for watching this with us. Can you please tell Boys Bible listeners, if they haven't listened to Cinematic Void, what is the podcast and what kinds of stuff do you usually cover on it?
Cinematic Void is it's like a, I don't want to just do the Cinematic Void is like the thing I do at the beginning of our podcast.
Oh, yeah,
right.
Right.
It's like, that's exactly what I started to do. Like, Cinematic Void is a cult film series, blah, 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 the Los Angeles area. I could just do a little ad read for you.
Yeah, do the NPR like ad read.
Yeah. But so I'm just part of the Cinematic Void podcast, but Cinematic Void screens horror and exploitation kind of films in LA. And I was just going to produce the podcast, and we just did like a fake conversation just to have fun one day, just to get it set up. And he's just like, why don't you just be on it? I'm like, fuck, like, I guess, dude. So here I am. And now I'm on your podcast because of it. So
you got conscripted into the podcast wars.
Yeah.
It's that like nonlinear warfare that everyone's using nowadays.
As men, this is just what we have to do.
Yeah, we're all warriors.
Yeah, all able-bodied men who can be of service to their country are drafted to serve in their local podcast division. That's basically what Cinematic Void is. So you're quite a film lover.
Yeah.
As I understand. What do you specialize in?
Lately I've gotten into more just like artsy, kind of like just stuff on the Criterion channel. Basically, it's just like I've canceled everything else, and I just kind of dug into that. And I just went from like being super lowbrow to just digging into highbrow stuff that I don't understand. But I enjoy it.
Just noticing from your letterbox too, it's not just Criterion stuff, but a lot of the like really heavy Criterion stuff.
Yeah, I go for it. I want like I can never be sad enough. I can never be depressed enough. I just fucking throw it on me, man.
That's my biggest problem is there's so many movies I want to watch, but I'm like, I don't want to feel sad this afternoon. Like I'm trying to stay uplifted, It's hard being a film lover.
I've been putting off Salo for years. You told when we met, I think like the first night that we met, you told me that Salo was good.
Yeah, that could be. I mean, that's a notable exception to everything I just said because I'm a huge Pasolini fan. But well, Scott, you're like going through your like fundamentally transgressive films right now, which is interesting because you have watched more movies than basically anyone I know. So like, I feel like you've seen like 10 times the amount of films I've seen, but you hadn't seen Cannibal Holocaust and you just watched it.
Yeah, I did. I did just watch it on Saturday.
What did you think?
I thought it was good.
I love that movie.
Score was good. It was like very effective.
Yeah.
People were not kidding about the turtle scene.
Yeah.
It was upsetting, but also like mesmerizing.
Yeah, totally. It's not without its artistic merit. It's like this really, to me, amazing like story about like colonialism and like media, and I don't know. I want to say so much about it, but I don't want to spoil it for anyone.
Yeah, there's
Plus,
a lot,
it's not our podcast,
lot to say, but it's extremely exploitive too. I mean, I don't know if read about it before you go watch it, but
I love exploitative stuff. Like all my favorite art. Wait, Nick, you're a lover of transgressive cinema.
I mean, that's kind of that really is my first love, my true love. But I've like I say, I've kind of branched out into more artsy stuff lately. But that's really a product of just trying to dig in and find as many just crazy transgressive films as possible, which led me to just more like artsy stuff and not super lowbrow, like whatever. But so once I started seeing things like Irreversible, which, so it's a fucking hard watch. But once I started seeing things like that, it's just like, oh, there's so much more out there than just like people getting ripped apart.
Right.
Yeah, right.
There's rape too.
Sure. Right. Brutal trauma. I heard you once say on the Cinematic Void podcast that you watch unearthed films too, which I was like, oh damn, I don't think I can.
Yeah, I was burning through those for a while.
I don't know what that is.
It's a California-based Blu-ray label, and they most notoriously did a Serbian film. That's how I was introduced to this label, and I'm just like, well, they put this out. Let's see what else they've done, and I found some pretty crazy stuff. I'll leave it at that. I mean, they did fucking Serbian film. What else do you need to know?
Right.
But I eventually found some stuff that was like really fucking like not just awful, but also really bad.
Sure.
And once I started hitting the wall with just like, all right, I saw like the 3 really good films they put out.
Yeah.
And just started digging into the garbage, and it's just like, okay, I can't. This was fun for a couple weeks. But,
yeah.
Well, to what you were saying about like your sort of film taste journey right now, I mean, I also love, transgressive stuff, and definitely at first the appeal was just like, I want to see something new. I want to be shocked. I feel like I'm like numb to everything. So like I need something that will just like scare me and revolt me. But then it does become about like, oh, I actually like these because they're just like telling stories in ways that you don't see, and then I feel like it makes sense that turns into like, oh, well, now who are just like straight up the masters of telling stories, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Or of expressing specific feelings.
Yeah.
Too. I think that's like a big part of it. Like it's not just that it's like something that's shocking or is upsetting.
Yeah. In our like personal taste journey. Yeah. Obviously we're all in our own ways into like transgressive film, low budget film, auteur film, really highbrow art film. But, for me, Scott, and our co-host Julian, that definitely took us to Christian outsider film, Christian genre film, Christian outsider or auteur film, because we get that same feeling of, we don't really know what's going to happen next. The pacing, anything can just be, completely different. However, the one we chose to watch with you today, Nick, is not a typical Christian genre film. This is an instance of us branching into just like trying to show our listeners something really, really cool that we think they might like, with a lot of spiritual themes, although it may not be like something by Pure Flix, or by Kevin Sorbo, or we love him. Like, don't get me wrong. But today we decided to watch Shatter Dead, 1994 shot on video film by Scooter McCrae. This is a Scott pick, as many of our films are. What led you to this film? How did it end up on the docket?
Well, initially I found out about it because Saturn's Core Audio and Video put it out, and I am interested in everything they put out because I think they have good taste and they do a really good job with their video transfers. And until recently, these great video transfers they would come out in like editions of like 25 copies on VHS.
Sure.
But now they're partnered with Vinegar Syndrome, so they get these awesome Blu-ray releases and like, probably, I assume, indefinite amounts of copies will be put out, which is cool. So I pretty much just bought this site unseen because it was Saturn's Core Audio and Video, and real big on top of the Blu-ray it says God hates you.
Yeah. I mean, that's enough for me too. And I mean, you're also just like a shot on video specialist in general. Like,
yeah,
that's something
I do like it.
Yeah, and you have that whole screening series in LA, which, you haven't done it for a while because of, COVID and everything. But
yeah, movie time with Camera Viscera.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of really amazing like shot on video stuff through that. And I mean, shot on video films always give me this very distinct like feel, like no matter what the subject matter, the mood of seeing something shot on video just like always puts me in this very specific headspace. Like, do you feel that too? Like what is it that is like the unique vibe about shot on video stuff?
I do feel a certain vibe comes with it. I've seen very few, but I do understand what you mean by that.
Yeah. I've seen quite a bit just because of Scott, basically. But
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think there's like partially like a connection to like just because all of us are old enough to remember when people shot all their home videos on VHS.
Yeah.
So I think there's like some kind of connection there. So like you are automatically connecting it to something more homey or familial, and probably making you think of something in the back of your head that you're not aware of.
Did you guys grow up with like a video camera in the home?
No, I really wanted one, and my dad was like, "No, it's too expensive." And I was like, "Well, that's that."
Yeah,
and,
yeah. We never had one.
Yeah,
but all the cool families did,
right?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, I really wanted one.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's like that's sort of the way. Yeah, we almost associate that with like memory. So like maybe not literally, but figuratively, like that shot on a video is like what all of our memories look like. Maybe that's like. Well, nowadays, like the TikTok kids, like they put like the video filter on stuff for like, you know, the aesthetic. It's like, yeah,
for sure,
evocative of this specific era for sure. I do find that when I watch something shot on video, it feels like authentic in some way, even though obviously that word loses all meaning when, you know, you're talking about like a staged film.
Sure.
But there is something like even like the people that show up and shot on video films. I mean, it helps that they generally are not like famous actors that I recognize. They're usually people who just with their group of friends made a couple things. But I feel like even in like Shatter Dead, when I would see people on screen, I would be like, okay, yeah, their hair is very 90s or whatever, but like they look like people I would meet. Like they look like my friends or, you know, people I would see around or something. Like even if they're hot or whatever, it's just like, yeah, there's something that feels very like real about shot on video, which really draws me to it.
Yeah.
It definitely didn't feel exclusively 90s. Like I couldn't quite, I didn't actually read anything about this before you guys showed this to me. I knew nothing. I didn't know who directed it, who was in it, fucking what year it came out. And yeah, I couldn't play. Is this 86 or 96? I couldn't figure it out.
Awesome.
That was a strength of Shatter Dead. I think it did feel sort of like beyond the world. It didn't feel too. It was low budget. You know, they couldn't really change the environment around them. You know, a lot of the costuming and technology and everything was definitely of its era, probably provided by the actors themselves in many instances, but it still was very effective at kind of transcending its time and place and being like an art object that still felt, you know, very kind of fresh to me. I thought it was very successful at that.
Yeah, I certainly think so. I watched it a number of times now.
Yeah. How many times?
I think this was the 5th time.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nothing like the 5th time, you know.
Yeah.
That's when the film.
And I got it like this past fall, so.
Yeah, really coming back to it. I mean, I see why. Like, for me personally, of all the shot on video films, you know, it's kind of like easy to sort of group them in a critical category by themselves just because they're so singular. But of all the shot on video films that you've shown me, this one might be my favorite. Like, it's just so. I mean, we'll get into it, but it's just so like it's very sophisticated in a way, like the storytelling, like the gestures, the little signs and symbols of it, and all the things it explores. You know, it's very campy and violent and gory, and you know, like there's lines that are delivered impactful, like "get the fuck out of my face," like that type of like, you know, sort of action movie like basic dialogue. But
yeah, it
still feels like very sophisticated and like beautiful at times to me. You know,
it's a quiet film.
Yeah,
you know?
It is quiet. Yeah,
and you know, it doesn't force feed you the details. It doesn't really tell you anything.
Right. That's actually a really good point, Scott, because you were saying about how. Like with this is almost like a museum piece. You know, you go to a museum and you like see, and like I just went to LACMA and I was looking at the art that was just like, you know, someone threw paint at a canvas or whatever. But you got to read the thing, you know, you got to read the description, and then you say, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I feel like Shatter Dead is very like that as well.
That's how you know that it's art.
Right. Exactly.
But I did like that about it. So our protagonist is Susan, who I think she's awesome in it, played by Stark Raven.
Stark Raven.
Which-
Incredible.
Is that her real name? I don't know, but it's a great name. And she only has 2 movie credits, and they're both Scooter McRae's movies.
Oh wow.
Dude, she is such a star. Like, how
Right?
did she not like be a fucking like B or C or D movie actor? Like, she could have been. She's like hot, a great actress, really cool look. Like,
Yeah.
I don't understand why if she had ambitions to like go Hollywood, she could have totally done it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know why. I guess she didn't want to. I don't know. I know that Scooter McRae, who directed this, did find her at like a play. He said she had like 6 lines and she delivered them all 1,000,000 times better than anyone else
Cool.
in the production, and so that's why he asked her to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know if it ever says where it takes place. I did see a New York license plate, but as we were talking earlier, it feels Pennsylvania-y,
Oh yeah. Very mid-Atlantic.
so I don't know. Maybe she's running a Wawa or something now
Could be. Hey,
Yeah.
you know what?
by choice
not the
because
worst.
she didn't want to be an actress.
Yeah, exactly.
She wasn't into it, but
You
she's
know,
great in this.
I've heard Wawa takes care of their employees. It couldn't be the worst spot.
But you were saying about just like the whole like the caption thing, the like contextual stuff with this
I
movie.
derailed myself as I often do. So yeah, I think just from, even if you don't read what it's about, it's all from her perspective. So it's like, what's she dealing with? Like, how much does she actually know either? Like, we don't really know.
Right.
But it does say on the back of the box, which I read before purchasing, that an angel impregnates a human, and
Doggy style.
Doggy
Right.
style. And then as soon as that happens, nobody can die anymore.
Oh, that's why.
Yes.
Oh,
Fuck.
Yeah.
See, it's like you can't think you're better than this movie. You can't.
Yeah.
You're wrong.
That's true. I just put something together though. So we know that all dogs go to heaven, and we saw an angel fucking a woman doggy style. I can't help but think that there's something there.
There's got to be something there.
Right. There's too many dogs in heaven. So here's the problem. I feel like heaven is being overpopulated with dogs. We're going to have to go like deer hunting season on them up there just because there's just not enough space for them. And it's making the angels fucking nasty, unforeseen ways that they didn't used to before.
Well,
Isn't
dog
that
is
fair?
God backwards. So maybe God's pushing the angels out. I don't know.
This is too dangerous. This information is too dangerous.
I absolutely love the concept though of that. No matter what we'll say like everything in the Bible, whatever version of the Bible you read, that is all totally true, and everything should come within a certain way. However you perceive it should come, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Except for that, an angel who like their ability or power or whatever the fucking angel really is, decided to do something else, and
Yeah.
so it completely changes like your life.
Fascinating concepts.
Yeah, they don't teach you about that in church.
No.
But they kind of do, because it's like spiritual warfare in a way, except it's
Right.
like spiritual casual sex.
Right. They say bombing for peace is like fucking for virginity. Remember when they used to say that about like the Iraq war and stuff in like 2004 or whatever? But yeah, so this movie opens with a really powerful like image of an angel who's depicted as, like a naked woman with wings, like sort of a typical depiction of an angel, but yet it feels very shocking and powerful the way it's shot, the just like rawness of the image, the fact that the film opens and the first thing you're treated to is, this sex scene between angel and human woman. As we just learned, and here's the thing, I love a movie that doesn't tell you. Like, I love when a movie just doesn't explain it to you. It's just like, we're going to show you the image. That's exactly what Shatter Dead did. But yes, as Scott was saying, the sex act between angel and human, this is the catalyst that changes the face of the earth forever. And the characters in Shatter Dead are really kind of coping with the way life is lived now, which is, of course, that there is no more death. How is that depicted in the movie?
Just a lot of fucked up people around. It sounds like with stuff that's on the radio in the background and stuff, there's like a new lower class basically of that, like if you're dead, people are harder on you than if you're not dead. And the more grotesque you look because of whatever may have happened to you and you're never gonna heal again, then kind of like in society now, like the more grotesque you look, the more people who are going to be like, oh, I'm staying away from that person.
Yeah, the movie, I think, did a great job of like doing the sci-fi thing of like making a new rule for reality and then like following it through to its conclusion, like investigating like, oh, well, if this is true in this like fictional reality, then what are all the implications of that? And I think what made this movie so good is that it packed so much of that into 80 minutes. Like the rules for like how you can die and like how it makes you look, you know, when you're in your dead form. Like what are some of the examples of just like new rules of life and death in Shatter Dead?
Well, one thing, I don't know if this is a rule exactly, but there's people who they like being dead because they can stay young forever.
Yeah.
And so they don't have to worry about dying anymore, but they like don't want to fuck up their faces because they can look young forever.
I'm beautiful, and I will be forever, and young and healthy and strong. Today is the beginning of the rest of my life, for real. And I'm no burden on society. I don't consume or waste anything. So what's wrong with the choice I've made? Can you look me in the eye and honestly tell me what it is I've done wrong?
Yeah, I thought that was so neat. It was like, yeah, just like other stuff that you can that you have to keep in mind. Yeah, it's like there's other dead people and they're trying to sell you on like the freedom that being dead will provide. But actually, like the people who want to be dead for that reason, like they're motivated because of their like desire for basically immortality.
Yeah,
they have
vanity.
to treat themselves right. Yeah, if they kill themselves like basically due to vanity, then yeah, they have to spend the rest of immortality like guarding themselves as if they're extremely fragile, you know, maybe even more so than they did when they were alive.
Yeah.
The stakes are even like higher in a weird way, which is a really interesting catch-22.
Yeah, you can go to the doctor when you're alive or maybe heal.
Right. I also really thought it was interesting, like the ways that different characters, like being dead came with its own like new like health rituals. Like there's that woman who has the shower scene with Susan. What was her name? Was that Mary? No.
Yeah. I don't
even know if she.
I don't remember
name.
what her name was
That's
in the
right.
movie, but her real life name is Flora Fauna.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
But that you're talking about the woman who had the shower scene with.
Yeah.
Okay, her name is Flora Fauna.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, cool.
Stark
cool.
Raven and Flora Fauna.
Okay, yeah.
Do a shower scene.
Yeah.
Because of course they do.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But like she had this. She's one of the categories of dead people who were motivated to die due to wanting to stay young, and she had all these new like health rituals. Like she was like, I stand on my head to get like the blood flowing back to my head because, you know, like if you stay in one place for too long, then like your blood and like your organs like don't work properly. Like you kind of have to keep like stirring your body around, which is very interesting.
Yeah, you just like flatten out in the blood pools because you're dead.
Yeah,
because you're a corpse.
Right. I think that, I mean, there's like, you know, lots to be said about the rules of life and death in this movie that will probably come out as we're talking, but I think a main theme in this movie is like the allure of the just obviously doomed choice. Like you see a future in front of you. I mean, you know, at some point you're going to die. It's inevitable. But here you're given this choice, like basically, do I see the end of the movie? You know, like, do I know what's going to happen? Just like take the plunge and do it, and sort of like take something that was once left up to God, you know, into your own hands. But this choice is like obviously doomed. Like, even if there's good things about it, there's just like, you know, it's not a happy one. It almost kind of reminds me of like the idea of like addiction, you know, of doing something that's very dangerous or like detrimental to yourself, even if you know it's going to be bad for you, but because, you know, there's something about it that's alluring, and maybe even the abjectness of it is kind of alluring. I don't know. I thought that was a pretty interesting like theme throughout this whole movie.
Well, I think like with say something like drugs or just the way that we mistreat ourselves, right? Like the reason we do these things is because of death, like at all.
Right.
Like that is what motivates us to ruin our own lives, because we're so afraid of death. The anxiety of death is so strong that we can't even just do the things that we're motivated to do day to day. You know what I mean? So it's like, so if you're not worrying about death anymore, you can conquer life. That's the allure to me.
Yeah, right.
So like, be like, yeah, fuck yeah, let's go. Like I'll do it, and then I can be young too. Like I'm on board. Yeah, let's go. Like sign me up.
Would you take the death pill if you lived in the Shatter if you lived in the Shatter Dead universe? Would you take the death pill?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Absolutely. Like my vanity. Like I'm already too old. I would have taken it years ago. You know?
Sure.
Yeah. I already hate sleeping too. They don't have to sleep anymore.
Oh, wow. That's a great point.
But they can't taste food. Like when I had COVID, the worst part of it was that I couldn't taste food.
Really?
You know what? I think about that sometimes though, because when I get kind of hungry, all I can think about is food. And so it would be kind of nice to like kill that desire.
There is,
just watch movies.
Right. You would be able to dedicate a lot more time to doing what you love. That's for sure. But yeah,
you got to keep moving though.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you'd have to get your steps in while you were watching.
That is a thing. You like have to do exercise, but it doesn't improve your body. It just keeps your body from being shitty.
Right, but I do agree that like that is. I definitely find myself like hung up on the inconveniences of just like day-to-day maintenance. It's all very like, you know, I really like eating food, but I absolutely hate cooking. I hate making it for myself. I find the whole process to be like a drag. And every time I'm doing it, I'm like, why do I have to do this? Like, this is so insane. This is the real addiction, you know? And I definitely see an appeal in like being free from, most of those like sick, vicious cycles, like, having to drink water or whatever. But you're right. I mean, in the reality of this film, those just kind of get replaced by new ones. If death is life too, then there's still things like that you have to maintain. But I don't know. I don't know if I would do it.
No?
I mean, honestly,
you just get old and then be really old.
Well, I don't know if this makes me like, right. I know. I mean, there's something to be said. Well, for me, and I think this is like cowardice, like disguised as morality, but I honestly think I'd be way too scared to kill myself. Like, even if I knew, like, even if I could see the evidence all around that it was just like, you know, life too. Just going through the act of it is like, that concept is like very, very scary to me. And I found myself very like horrified in the film, you know, like the way a horror movie like horrifies you by like people sort of like plotting their demises and like sharing tips. One thing I did think through this movie is that there would be guides on YouTube of like best ways to kill yourself. That is something that I thought of while watching this movie. I was like, there's going to be death influencers.
Yeah.
Like death lifestyle.
If this was made by like Verhoeven, you would have those commercials, you know, on YouTube.
That's so true. Oh, I just rewatched Total Recall, and like that was like the movie I watched most recently before this. So it's funny that you brought him up. But you're absolutely right. That is the Verhoeven script of Shatter Dead. Yeah, there's like death in 2022. There's like death influencers and like yeah.
You just hit skip when the commercial comes on again. You're sick of it. Fuck.
Oh man,
That's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, I wonder what kind of movies would get made like then too.
Right.
That you couldn't pull off now with eternal beings.
Oh yeah, you know what's that movie Boyhood that took how many years to make? What if there was a movie that took 700 years to make or whatever?
Yeah.
That would be cool, right?
That would be cool.
Yeah,
you could then, Ash, you could be in that movie since you don't want to take the death pill. We could like watch you become 700 years old.
Right. That would be cool. Yeah, you would need to preserve some living people. Well, that was another really interesting thing in this movie is how the living and the dead coexisted, because you're right. Like one of you said, I think Scott said earlier, how like death basically creates like another caste of citizens, like sort of like an untouchable caste. But there's definitely like enmity between the two tribes, you know, between the living and we don't see a ton of living people in this movie, but we mostly see dead people. But there's definitely like, yeah, tension between the living and the dead, but it's not like they're always just like out to get each other either. I found it really interesting. Like what did we think of like the preacher and the death clique and like how they interacted with the living? Like what was going on with that?
I mean, it was definitely it was very confusing to me at first, you know, when they kind of surround her in her car and then she gets out and they just don't do anything. Well, they steal her car.
Yeah.
You know, but they don't attack her. I'm like, wait, they're not zombies? They're zombies.
Yeah.
You know, I'm still trying to figure out what the hell I just saw for sure, you know. Yeah, it's fucking weird, man. But yeah, they weren't really they weren't zombies, like definitely in the traditional sense at all. But yeah, I mean, I guess they're just fucking dead. But yeah, very confusing.
Yeah, I thought that was confusing the first time I watched it too, and then the second time I just thought like, okay, maybe they just don't want. She has a gun. They don't want to risk their faces getting more fucked up or like losing fingers permanently or something like that. I don't know why they need to steal cars, though. That is a weird racket.
Yeah, that was interesting because there was some talk in the movie about like jobs and consuming. There was some like instances of like discourse around like consumption in this film. Like the one woman, again, perhaps Flora Fauna, perhaps her character says something like she's almost like trying to sell people on like the morality of being dead. The idea that maybe being dead is a more moral stance because you're not consuming.
Yeah.
Like you're like an active participant in the world, but you're not consuming anything.
Yeah.
Which I thought was interesting because yeah, like the dead don't work jobs for some reason. They're not qualified or capable of working jobs. They don't consume anything. So they just kind of like steal, I guess.
Yeah, well, I think people aren't hiring them. Like that guy at the beginning whose face is all fucked up is like, well, I was a crash test dummy to feed my family, but now my face is too fucked up, so I can't go home.
Yeah.
Kind of sounds, surely there'd be some other menial jobs that people would hire you to do. I don't know. Maybe not.
Maybe not. I don't know.
They're discriminated against.
Yeah.
Kind of. You know, honestly, it's kind of like these Zoomers nowadays, you know, they don't want to work either. Maybe they should just kill themselves.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I just thought that tension was interesting. Oh, there's something that the preacher says, which was very fascinating, was that, you know, obviously one could maybe assume that there'd be certain dead people who would just want to kill the living to like sort of enact revenge on them. And maybe in the massive worlds that isn't explored in this movie, there are dead people who do that. But in this movie, the dead people were basically like, don't kill her. She'll be with us eventually.
The car is ours. Forget about her now. She will join us later, only by choice. That is our strength.
there was almost this, because of the inevitability of death, there was this understanding sort of among the dead that they didn't have to do anything to the living, because some way or another, you know, they would be a part of their tribe eventually.
Yeah, and that I really liked that preacher character. I thought he was great in this.
Well, that reminds me. There's one thing that I was entirely clear on. So that if you die, you stay the same age and you don't really die. But if you're alive, do you still die of like natural causes, old age, or do you just keep on living forever? You know what I mean?
You just get older and older and more decrepit.
Okay. So you have to die, you know, violently or whatever in some sort of way, right? You know what I mean?
That's interesting.
Yeah.
In my head, you would die of natural causes, but then just be dead.
Mm-hmm.
No,
right?
But they were saying that there was like people had been digging up graves for loved ones because it was like on the background in the radio because people, you know, it's still, even if you have your regular strength again, you still have to get through like 6 feet of dirt in like a wood box.
Wow.
There's bored down there, just fucking hanging out.
Yeah.
Well, there's
horrible.
There's never any like there was never anyone that was like super old. Like they never like carved out fucking Methuselah. Like, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't know. So that was kind of unclear.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah. We didn't get to fully explore that just with the characters in the film. I mean, there could be the Shatter Dead extended universe someday.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I do think that was one thing that was kind of telling about like how old the filmmakers were when they made this, because like most of the characters were around a certain age.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's something I thought about when I was watching too. It's like, realistically, when you're like an alt person making a film, you just cast it with your hipster friends, you know?
Yeah.
So like, of course, everyone in the film was like 31 or something.
Right.
Like,
Right.
I don't know. So that, you know, honestly, sometimes that aspect, that is usually one of my biggest pet peeve with movies. But I actually thought Shatter Dead, the casting was good. Like it looked good. That aspect of it didn't fully take me out of it. Even though like when they were in like the dead people's house, I was like, oh, this is just like a punk house.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
Yeah,
Like, I've been to that house.
Yeah, exactly. I've hung out at that house.
I stayed there on tour.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Yeah. You know, speaking of that like preacher guy, so, you know, part of the whole reason we decided to do this for the show was because of its very like specifically Christian undertones and like imagery in the film, like the way that it like referenced Christian mythology and, you know, this new world where death is just life too, like a grimdark life. So I wonder, you know, let's start to get into some of the Christian themes. Like, you know, obviously we see this like immaculate conception thing happen, but a more like base, like vulgar immaculate conception when we see the angel fucking the human woman. But there's quite a lot of other like theological discussion in this film. What were some instances of that?
Yeah, the whole thing was like just very existential Christian thoughts like abounded throughout it.
Yeah.
Which was pretty cool. And the preacher's like trying to make sense of it too, saying like God's opened this can of theological worms now.
Yeah.
And God left us but is coming back.
What are you afraid of? You see the end of the world? This is God's world. It's never going to end. Oh, sure, God is gone, and he's opened a really big can of theological worms this time. But he's testing us.
I think it's like now where people just like decide to interpret different parts of the Bible for whatever like fits that's going on in the current times.
Yeah.
And they're still doing that here too. I mean, I don't think religion's gonna go away ever.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. No, you're right. No matter what circumstances you've been dealt, there will be an opportunity to interpret that according to, you know, whatever your religious background is.
Yeah, and he's talking about like God is testing us too.
Mm-hmm.
which is interesting. 'Cause
Right.
we cover what we covered for our last week Patreon episode was a movie called Stephen's
Test of Faith.
Yeah, Stephen's Test of Faith.
Yep.
And it's about this kid, Stephen, who's bullied at school. And then there's a biblical character, Stephen the martyr, that comes to him in his dream and shows him all this, these other people who have been martyred in history. And so that's like, where was I going with that?
You're talking about God testing.
Yeah, just God testing you. So then, like, okay, you can't really be martyred anymore. So, like, how are you, like, proving to God that you're still with him or something? So it's like if that's been what your point in life is, then, like, if you're still alive in death, if that makes sense, then, like, how are you still, like, proving your worth to God?
Wow, you're right. That whole like stake has been completely removed. You can't be martyred anymore.
Yeah.
Damn.
And like how many people would still like believe in the rapture? Probably.
Right. Well, you know, the rapture was mentioned in this movie. I mean, I think for the preacher character, the allure of the rapture was that it is maybe the only conclusion that anyone can come to. Like, that's their only chance of ever like ending their misery.
Right.
Is if the earth like literally explodes.
Yeah.
And even then, I mean, who's exactly to say what will happen? But I would assume that if like a meteor hit the earth, like there's got to be some like those, you know,
just be floating in space,
just living forever.
Yeah, just living forever. You're just like dust particles with thoughts.
Well, I mean, I think that is sort of like how some people conceive of like life after death, because I mean, it's pretty impossible to really like conceive of that other than like in the framework that we already have for how we like experience thoughts in our body and stuff. So it's like, I mean,
we're all just star stuff, man.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. I mean, yeah, this film like maybe takes that a step further. Yeah, the apocalypse is like maybe the only answer. God, I might have to pipe most of that like one preacher monologue into the episode, just because like you're right, Scott. It's like there's so many contradictions in it. It's clearly like a man trying to speak authoritatively while not really understanding a situation.
Right, but that's like all preachers, right?
Right. Yeah.
Like
you
they're
could
like,
say.
okay, guys, I figured it out. Listen up. And
Yeah.
you're like, oh yeah, you figured out what God is thinking.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Definitely not just your interpretation of what you think God is.
Right. Totally.
Like I liked, he said, who is Jesus but one of us, a downtrodden wanderer?
Who are we to change the world? The homeless, the jobless, the forgotten, and we really smell bad. Who are we?
Then who is Jesus, preacher man?
Ah, indeed, if not one of us, a downtrodden wanderer who spoke the truth at all cost and has liberated us with that truth and continues to do so.
So like thinking of like Jesus is also, I don't know, I guess he died and came back to life too. That's the thought there maybe.
Oh, right.
And so that's like Jesus is even more like them than they previously
Wow.
thought when in life, maybe. I don't know.
That's amazing. I didn't even think about that. But yeah, you're right. There's a tendency to like reinterpret the Bible based on your, you know,
Current sitch.
yeah, and also there's a compulsion to say that Jesus is just like me. He just like me for real, but like now even more so because yeah, you too have died and come back to life. So they really have cause to believe that. But yeah, I wonder, you know, the preacher says God has left us, which I mean, some people already believe,
Yeah.
you know, in our, you know, current real in scare quotes life.
Like how I think that the rapture already happened, but only like 12 people got raptured.
Whoa. I don't know if you've ever fully explicated that
Oh,
one to me. You probably said that before, but I don't know if we've ever really gotten into it.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And then God's like, you're my new 12 apostles.
Well, wait, do you think it's literally like the 144,000 that the Jehovah's Witnesses think?
Maybe.
Like they were actually right about that all
Yeah.
along?
Why not?
Yeah, it could be. Wow.
And then the rapture happened, and
Yeah. But, in this film, they're pretty sure that God has left them. And so I guess my next theological discussion question is is this hell? Is the life of Shatter Dead, is Shatter Dead a depiction of hell?
I don't know. Maybe like limbo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Doesn't seem that bad.
Really?
I don't know.
Get to stay young forever.
Yeah,
I feel like you guys are a little bit more willing to accept the Shatter Dead framework than I am. I don't know. I just don't know if I'm death pilled.
I mean, I wouldn't stick around New Jersey probably, but
okay, I'll give you that.
Go someplace nicer. Maybe I go someplace colder if I'm not feeling it. Something that preserves my body well. I'd go up into northern Canada or something.
That's interesting.
I don't know. What would you guys do?
I think you're onto something.
Yeah, no, I've actually, honestly, you're selling it to me more and more. No, you're right. Yeah, you'd go to someplace cold.
Yeah. So something that's good for the movie projector too,
Yeah.
What's the best temperature for that and me? The best stuff.
And then you just sort of go there. You're going to be like that Twilight Zone episode, though, where the man breaks his glasses or whatever.
Oh, my God.
It's the fucking projector light's going to go out and you're going to have to go on a Mad Max style or a Cherry 3000 style.
Yeah, the bulb explodes.
Quest.
I put on this movie and the bulb explodes.
Yeah.
There was a lot of cool gun stuff in this movie, I thought.
Yes, there was.
Right after I had ordered this movie, I was talking to, actually this is at a Cinematic Void show. I mentioned to your co-host Jim Branscombe that I had just purchased this movie Shatter Dead that I was excited to get, and he was like, "Oh, I've seen that before." And he's like, "Wait, have you seen it?" And I was like, "No, I haven't seen it yet." And he's like, "Okay, there's a really creative gun scene in that. Probably the most creative gun scene I've seen. Creative use of a gun." That's what he said.
Maybe the greatest gun scene of all time.
Yeah,
truly great.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. That was one of my favorite scenes. I almost forgot about it, but yeah.
Well, before we get to that,
okay.
I'm pretty sure we're all thinking of the same scene. I thought it was really cool that Susan, when she takes a shower for the first time after who knows how long, when she's at the punk house, the only thing she doesn't take off when she goes in the shower is her gun.
Right.
Which is pretty cool.
This is a really dumb question. Can you do that?
I was wondering that the first time too, and then I didn't care the following times.
Totally.
Yeah.
I thought about it. It's not like a gun is like a piece of electronics. It's not like your iPhone.
Yeah.
I'm not an expert. However, I've shot guns many times. I have lots of friends with guns, and I'll try to get them to take me to a range as much as possible.
Yeah.
So I definitely have a decent amount of experience shooting guns. However, I've never done the whole cleaning a gun and all that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But just the fact that that's something that needs to happen frequently tells me that you probably can't take a fucking gun in the shower.
Yeah.
It's a terrible idea.
Yeah, you're right.
But it looks cool as hell.
Yeah, it looks really
so
cool.
sick. Yeah. Yeah.
And it probably still works, at least that one time that you're in the shower. If you were in danger, you're probably still good for a few minutes,
Right. Yeah. Maybe
so,
the one in the chamber will work or something.
It's not going to rust on you right away. Right. So,
right.
So it's sick.
That's probably true.
And the other thing I really liked was, it would keep cutting to that image or vision of an angel, handing you a gun, POV, an angel hands you a gun.
Hell yeah. It's all I ever wanted in life.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that was a sick image. It was a cool gesture that was you have the power to take your death into your own hands. Are you going to take the death pill? Are you going to make the choice? You know?
If an angel hands me a gun, I know what my fucking decision is.
God told me to.
Yeah.
I'm going to kill myself in a very delicate way so that you can't even tell with that gun somehow.
Not me. I'm gonna fuck myself or someone else with it.
There you
go. Which is another gun related option that this movie presented. Maybe my favorite scene in the whole film. I thought that was really beautiful. There's a scene where Susan finally finds her way on her journey to her boyfriend's apartment.
Yeah, I should mention we're recording this on Valentine's Day.
Wow, you're right.
This movie is kind of a love story in a way.
It is. I just want to say I can't think of anything I'd like to do better on Valentine's Day than be here podcasting with the two of you. Very special.
Thanks.
Yeah, there's this really amazing scene. She finally makes it back to her boyfriend's apartment. She finds that he has taken the death pill. He has. I think I should also mention that I keep saying taking the death pill. I mean it completely figuratively. That is not. It seems like something that could possibly be in this movie. That there is not. You just kill yourself. That's what I'm saying.
He actually slit his wrist specifically, and they will never close again. Right. And they show a close up of that. It looked pretty good.
It looked scary. I didn't like it.
Little wrist vaginas.
Yeah,
right.
Totally.
No, it was very right. And yeah, in this scene then that also kind of like the sex and death wires get crossed.
Yeah.
She's very excited to see her boyfriend. She wants to make love to him. He reveals that now that he's dead, he can't get an erection because, there's no like blood flow in his body. So
yeah,
she says, I love you. We'll make it work. She ties her gun like to his waist, sort of like another penis, and they have sex, like essentially like the gun is a dildo, and it's this pretty like heavy-handed but like amazing metaphor for like very powerful metaphor for the sex and death drive, and also just like how death operates in this world where like death will set you free. It's like the ultimate. Killing yourself is like a release in a world where there is no release.
Yeah.
I found it very interesting and a really cool way of like summarizing the whole film like in a gesture like that. It was cool.
Yeah, it was a good scene.
It was good.
But the way it depicts it, it's like this like kaleidoscopic like just. Yeah, it's like you kind of just see I don't know, there's like an overlay of like the gun every once in a while. It's just fucking insane.
Yeah, they're really nice overlays. It's like, and nothing else like that looked like that in the movie, really.
Yeah, it was cool. Yeah, you mean like the overlay? Yeah, there's like a gun just like going into her vagina. Like that's what you're referring to?
Yeah, that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very
and then
cool.
it's just like, it's like their faces on the screen, but then you kind of see like kind of faded into it. It's just her like fucking furiously fingering herself.
Yeah. While there's a gun in her vagina. So sick.
But it's like, the hand is like way bigger than their faces on the screen. It's fucking awesome.
It was so cool. No, you're right. That was one of the most powerful scenes in the movie.
It's very powerful.
That's what I liked about this movie. So my favorite films are usually summarized in like, I like gestural films. I like films that are basically just like series of gestures that happen. And that can transcend like many different types of genres or whatever. But as I said before, I don't personally like when films like explain anything to me. I just kind of want to see like a series of images. I mean, probably the director who's the most like pop and well known, but also really a master of that is David Lynch. I think when people say a film is like Lynchian, I think that's what they're really referring to. He just kind of like does these little like gestural things that they don't have to mean, but they're very powerful in of themselves. And I think Shatter Dead was fantastic at that. Like there were so many moments like that through the film, even right from the first one of the angel fucking a human woman, right to that, this gun sex like dildo scene. Just so many powerful images. The dead people like tying boards to her boyfriend's joints after she pushes him out of the window, and he's like all bones are completely shattered. It's just like there's all these images that speak louder than any dialogue could have, and really like flesh out the world of this movie without having to say anything. Very cool.
I have to admit, I'm an idiot, and I didn't until just now when you said his bones were shattered.
Oh.
This whole time I'm going, why is it fucking called Shatter Dead? And then when you said his bones were shattered,
I didn't connect that either. And he's probably when I was like saying like what is with the like jello like stuff he's spitting up, it's probably like bone marrow. It's probably supposed to be bone marrow.
Huh.
It does look like that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Because I was like, all the effects in this movie are really good, and the gore effects are pretty effective. It's certainly for the budget, but I think just generally speaking. But so yeah, when he was spitting up that stuff, I was like, what's the deal here? You guys are. He has really good looking gashes on his head. Why is he spitting up jello? But yeah, that's got to be what it is because his bones are shattered. He's like spitting up marrow.
That's interesting. That could be. Yeah, I agree. That moment was very gross, but in a way that was almost like otherworldly. And yet it seemed like a lot of the other gore effects were trying to be like somewhat realistic. Again, realistic in like scare quotes here, but still.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I agree. I also found that scene, where he's spitting up like gelatin looking substance. Yeah, a bit like surreal and almost out of place in the film, although very powerful. But yeah, maybe that's what it was.
Did you all see when that like local like living Christian militia or whatever runs into the punk house and kills everybody? So there's like a lot of like blood splattering in that. But there was one shot of like blood splattering over a painting of the Last Supper.
Yeah, that was sick.
Pretty good.
Love shit like that. That's what this podcast is all about, baby. Give us that like heavy-handed Christian imagery. We love that. Yeah.
I also really liked the preacher saying that he's doing what he does because it's God's decision that he does what he does, and that no earthly force has the right to stop him.
Wow.
It's like I gotta use that like at work.
Yep.
At like
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Susan, don't try to stop me. It's God's decision that I do what I'm doing. No earthly force, not you nor anyone, can stop me, nor has the right to try to stop me.
Very wise. And very funny in a movie where, the whole premise of the film was people sort of like going against God's plan, God has left and we're empowering ourselves to make the choice of how we want to spend eternity.
But then this is God's plan, right? Like if you're a Christian and this happens, then if you still believe, then you just have to be like, oh, I just misinterpreted the Bible, right?
Right.
Maybe.
God made that angel horny. Period.
Yeah, right.
Whatever happens after that is God's plan.
Yeah.
I suppose.
And that's like with in the whole like basis of it in the first place too, where it's like, oh, this Satan guy, what's the deal with Satan? It's like, well, God created Satan, and like, why would Satan be mad unless God created that in Satan then?
Yeah. I think that's theologically sound, but I do like this movie. I like to imagine that in this movie, the angel fucking the human woman, that was not part of God's plan. That was the first thing that happened that wasn't. And that's why it created such a profound but you're right. I mean, in my understanding of God, he would have, known this was going to happen, but maybe in the Shatter Dead world, he didn't.
Yeah. And
it really was like that kind of a cosmos changing event.
Well, I think a lot too, like what if like God is just not all powerful, and then like, but people already put that in the Bible, and then God's like, well, I can't stop it now. It's not like I'm all powerful.
God's just a contractor like any of us. I guess, we can talk about anything else. I guess like my final discussion question though is like, what does this film feel about Christianity? I guess my answer is like, I don't see this as an anti-Christian film. To me, this wasn't one of those films that was like trying to be like, well, Christianity or religion like is a mistake or it's fruitless or anything like that. I honestly found this film kind of like reverent in a way.
It seems like it would be like a book in the Apocrypha or something.
Right. Yeah, that's great.
Like a additional Bible book that didn't make the final cut.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's like cool, like biblical fan fiction, not concerning itself with, knowing all the best Bible verses or anything, but also not, almost, like supplementing religious ideas rather than trying to shoot them down. I mean, that's really just once that tone starts happening in a film, that's when I'm completely like, all right, this film is against God. I no longer want to be watching it. I don't care. But I did not find that with this film. I found this film to be very, weirdly kind of reverent.
Yeah, it was just exploring ideas, really. It seemed like Scooter McCrae, the director, said that there was like at least one of, if not a couple of the monologues he had just written completely separately. It just felt like they fit into the movie.
Cool.
Just like existential things he's mulling over, I guess.
Yeah. They all ended up being part of this universe. That makes sense.
There was a spiritual advisor credit in the movie, too.
Yeah. I think every film should have one of those.
Oh, for sure.
It's like how every film nowadays needs like a COVID safety coordinator. I think every film should have a spiritual advisor because like,
thank you.
Everything's so against God nowadays. Like I do sometimes feel like we are in the final days.
Yeah. You gotta clear it with, what's the animal protection place that you have to clear with for movies? You got to like clear it with them. You got to clear it with the U.S. military.
Yeah.
You got to clear it with the spiritual advisor.
Yes, you do. Before the jackass guys like get their balls stomped on with a pogo stick, they have to like consult the spiritual advisor or whatever. Honestly, several movies I've seen that would never come out if there was a spiritual advisor on board, and I would say good. What else from this movie? Anything else of notes to bring up?
I did notice that the director was in the film Bloodletting.
Which
is a film that I'm very fond of that I saw as a teenager. Just randomly rented it, rented the VHS at the store like around the corner from my house, and ended up showing it to like all my friends. And it's just an insane shot on video film. In fact, my grindcore band in high school that I did with Jim from Cinematic Void, like we did a grindcore band where it was like, like the 7-inch we put out at the tail end of what we were doing was like 10 songs in 5 minutes. That gives you an idea of what we're doing,
Yeah.
But yeah, we and in that era, like everybody used tons of samples from movies and stuff like that. So we actually used a bunch of samples from Bloodletting on our demo.
Oh, that's awesome.
So yeah.
Very sick.
Good shot in Ohio SOV movie.
Oh, hell yeah.
With a couple Wave Productions people in it too. Actually that reminds me. So I talked to director Bill Hellfire, who is one of the two people who does Saturn's Core audio and video for a while on the phone a couple months ago, and he was saying that before he saw Shatter Dead, the only shot on video stuff he had seen was Wave Productions movies. And so because of that, he just assumed like shot on video basically meant like you're a brain damaged person. And like, it just means like a movie that doesn't make any sense and is like weird. And then when he saw this, he was like, oh no, you can like shoot on video to make like a good movie for cheap.
Wow. Yeah.
And then that like inspired him to like start making stuff.
That's cool. I love that Wave has that kind of like reputation that it does. I mean, if you watch any of their stuff, of which I've only seen a couple things, but I mean, I could get why someone would come to that conclusion.
Yeah.
Like they're very damaged films.
Yeah.
Damaged in the way that like the Jared Leto Joker had the word damaged written on his forehead, like that type of damage,
I liked when the boyfriend, after he has poisoned Susan, and then they had gun sex, and then she's like not feeling too good, and he's like you're welcome, I poisoned you, and or however he said it, and then she gets her gun again and like threatens to shoot herself in the head because it'll fuck up her face, and then he'll have to like deal with that forever. And then so she uses that to get him to get her a glass of water, and then when she's like sleepy and just setting it down, he pounces on her to knock the gun out of her hand and like try to hold her down until she falls asleep. But while he's doing that, he's like reading that old like children's prayer, like now I lay me down to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. But if I fold before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take.
I thought that was pretty good. Like another strong Christian element.
Yeah.
But that he's saying as he's trying to like, I guess non-consensually kill her.
Yeah, killing someone without their consent.
Yeah.
No, that's another example. What this movie did great, which was like using these like exploitation-y Christian things that could have been so corny, but they were actually like deployed in these really interesting ways. Like a killer in some like shot on video Christian exploitation movie being like, and as I lay my head to sleep or whatever, like that could have easily been so cringe.
Yeah.
But like the context of how that was deployed. Yeah. He's killing her in this like reality where like death is like a choice that you make. And like, it's, you know, still, although not clearly said, still in the context of this movie, like that's not an ethical thing to do, is kill someone, especially someone who's living. Yeah, he's doing that, and yeah, reading this prayer about protecting you, you know, while you sleep.
Yeah.
It's very very interesting.
Yeah, actually, now that you said that, I'm thinking like the whole movie, it's just people after people trying to be like, well, you think you don't want to be dead, but you'll be dead soon. Like the whole time, pretty much.
Right. Yeah, but even so, the dead people in the beginning of the film, as I was saying earlier, they say, "Oh, don't kill her. No, she'll come here by choice soon," but she actually doesn't. She is. I'm sure this situation happens in this universe in other ways, but in this film, she's the only person who we see who is killed by someone who thinks that he's doing her a favor. You know, it's an interesting dynamic.
Yeah.
What do you say? I think this was like a really, really cool film. I really recommend that Boys Bible Study listeners check it out. How can people watch this right now? They have to. Should they get the DVD from Vinegar Syndrome?
Yeah, the Blu-ray from Vinegar
that's right.
Syndrome is, I think, the only legal avenue to watch it right now.
Yeah.
A friend of mine, I know, found this. I don't remember where she said actually, but definitely found it online somewhere.
Yeah, I'm sure, like any movie, I'm sure it's out there somewhere. Yeah. Listener, if you're sort of a hacker type, I'm sure you could find it. But consider buying this Blu-ray from Vinegar Syndrome, because
it's really good.
Yeah, we've had Joe Rubin of Vinegar Syndrome on here before. We really, really respect what they do over there. Just some amazing archiving and releasing of really special material. So like, if this film piques your curiosity, and you have the means, like definitely consider buying it. Even, you know, just buy it unseen. Like, you won't regret it. It's a dope movie.
And if for some reason you buy it and you don't like the movie, then you will at least have a movie with a cover of a woman pointing a gun at you, and it says "God hates you" at the top of it.
Right, exactly. Like, it's a powerful art object in itself. It's a conversation starter.
Exactly.
So yeah, you'll definitely not regret it. But I think we should give this film the official Boys Bible Study rating. What do you say, boys?
Well, I will give this 3 out of 3 shower guns.
Yeah.
I absolutely love this, and I'll probably buy one of these for myself. I like it enough that I think I will purchase. I will not just pirate it as you suggested.
Sorry.
I will actually purchase this Blu-ray.
Awesome.
Yeah. 3 out of 3 shower guns.
Wow. Perfect score right there. It doesn't get any better than that. Yeah, you know, Shatter Dead. As I said, a very gestural film, a film that could have easily been cringe, but was not. In fact, it felt very timeless and not very tied to for instance, the early 90s, even though it was done very low budget and with a lot of materials that were just at hand at the time, still really transcended. I'm going to have to give this film 5 out of 5 condoms for angels. This is a new product I'm developing that will hopefully avoid such existential crises in the future. Maybe if more angels were using this, we could just rest in peace. But anyway, 5 out of 5 angel condoms.
Amazing. Any angels listening, be safe.
Yeah.
You don't want to upend the order of life and death.
No. Flatten the curve. Stay home.
Angels don't pull out. You know?
I love the way this movie looks. I think something we didn't mention is that like the focus pulling on this movie is really fucking good, which is not something I've ever even thought of for an SOV movie.
Yes.
It's not something that usually happens. The cinematographer is very good.
Completely agree.
And when you buy the Blu-ray, you can listen to him talk about how he was able to rack focus himself while like zooming and shit. It's amazing. Anyway, this movie is I love the pacing of it. I really like the score too. I'm gonna give this 5 out of 5 zombie carjackings. A perfect score. I love this movie.
5 out of 5 angel cream pies.
But it only took one. That's true. Right. It only took one. Nick, thank you so much for sitting in on Boys Bible Study and watching this film with us.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. It's been really fun.
I'm glad. Well, where can people find your work? Cinematic Void. I don't know. Should people follow you on Letterboxd? What can we get you on?
You can go to cinematicvoid.com to find all the stuff that Jim is doing. And then again, I just do the podcast. You can find that there as well. And then if you want to find me personally and stalk me, you can find me at Paranoid Futures on Letterboxd and Twitter and Instagram. You know, I mostly just use Letterboxd these days, but you know, I don't know. Who knows?
It's fast becoming the only relevant social media site. They'll find a way to fuck it up really soon. But for right now, I'm having fun on it.
Eventually, they'll add like you can personal message people and stuff like that. And it'll become a dating site. And that'll be great for a while. And then it'll be awful too. So,
yeah, that's a really good point. Well, we'll be around to see it, I hope. But yeah. Thank you again so much for joining us. As always, thanks everyone for listening to Boys Bible Study. If this is your first time here, please go to boysbiblestudy.com. There's links to subscribe to us in any of your favorite podcasting apps. We're probably on there. boysbiblestudy.com. If you are a returning listener, thank you so much for your support. And special thanks to our patrons. If you go to patreon.com/boysbiblestudy and subscribe for $5 a month, then you don't just get episodes every other week, you get them every week because we release bonus episodes regularly as well. Special thanks to our patrons at the $20 tier, our patron saints, who we shout out on the end of every episode. Shout outs to Nicole, Marissa, Jeff, Jane, Kara, and Alexandria. We couldn't do it without you guys. Thank you so much. Our outro music is Oh My God by Mary. From all of us here at Boys Bible Study, myself, Ash, my co-hosts, Scott and Julian, our guest today, Nick Vance, we would like to say, peace be with you.
And also with you.
Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. I feel your love in me, it's coming from within. Oh my God, my devotion is so unwavering. Divine emotions when you enter me. Every day you take me